As we learnt in an earlier session on business need, creating a sense of validity, the personal rightness of the change by those impacted by it is essential. We need people to feel that there are benefits to actually implementing the change. Otherwise, where is their motivation for actually getting involved and making the change their new way of doing their work? So we know that there's a big link between benefits and that sense of meaningfulness, that sense of purpose, that sense of, yeah, I want to be involved in this. So we know that meaningfulness is one of the three factors that taken together create intrinsic motivation. So along with autonomy and talents, if people feel that there's meaning, purpose and value to the change that they're being asked to get involved in, it creates enthusiasm, motivation and participation. So on this diagram, I've just connected the benefits dependency network that we're about to have a look at with creating intrinsic motivation, just so we can see the context of what we're talking about in this session. Now, benefits are not created just once and then forgotten about. We know that we create the business case in iteration 1, but we also then go on to look at the business case again in each of the subsequent iterations. In getting started, the business case is one of the inputs to discover. So when we're brainstorming all the things that we're going to create, we're conscious of the benefits that we're looking to generate. And when we get to realizing the benefits at the end of each iteration, we then look at whether or not we are realizing those benefits with what we've created in the iteration. And that enables us to update the business case, which we then take into the next iteration as part of the discover step of getting started. So there's definitely a flow to the continuous sort of evaluation of the benefits. There's something that never leaves us because they are the sort of the motivation that drives people through the roadmap and actually makes change a reality. I thought this might be helpful to look at the different types of benefit. I mean, the obvious ones are on the right-hand side. For most commercial organisations, revenue increases are what they're looking for. If you happen to work in the public or the third sector, you might replace the word revenue with productivity, because that would fit better with the culture of your organisation. You're not necessarily looking to make a profit, but you are looking to get as much value out of your resources. So trying to get more for the same amount of cost or more for less even would be something you're looking for. So a productivity increase. And of course, all organisations are genuinely looking for cost decreases. On the left-hand side, I've looked at three other factors, three types of benefit that I think go to support the ultimate revenue or cost benefits. So with customer satisfaction, that feeds both the revenue increase, because you've got customers who are satisfied, they will buy more from you. Or if you've got customers who are satisfied, you won't lose them. So you don't have the costs of having to acquire more customers through all of your marketing activities. So your costs will go down. Similarly, staff engagement means that you've got staff who really want to stay in your organisation, so they'll be more productive, revenue increase, and you won't have to keep hiring staff, which costs a lot of money, so a cost decrease. And finally, if you happen to be in a regulated business, if you comply with the regulations, you'll have a revenue increase because you'll be allowed to stay in business, and you'll have a cost decrease because you won't be fined for doing the wrong things. So these just give you some ideas of the benefits that we ought to go and look for. They're obviously very generic, and you're going to be looking for benefits specific to the change you're involved in. So let's have a look at two techniques that specifically help you go on the hunt for benefits. The first is the easy one. From everybody on your community map, you ask one question. What's the one benefit that resonates with them? What's the one benefit that means the most to them? So you're really asking them the question, what's in it for them? Why does the change make sense? Why does the change have advantages and improvements for them? Now, the key to this technique is to only ask for one idea. That means you're asking people to focus in on the thing that really means the most to them. That gives you an insight into their perspective. And it's really important you get them to choose, not give you a range, but to choose one thing that really resonates and makes the most sense, and therefore is the most motivating for them. They don't have to do a full analysis of their work. All they need to do is just give you that one perception, that one idea that they have. So it gives you sort of an immediate snapshot across all of those on your community map. And that's really useful because it gives you this understanding of the problems that are going to be solved and the opportunities that people think the change will bring. Now, obviously, a lot of people will say the same benefits. So it's like a normal distribution curve. You'll get that sort of big group of benefits, all the same ones in the middle, but you'll also get some outliers, some interesting ones that only one or two of your stakeholders have thought about. And it does give you a very wide range of ideas because, of course, one idea multiplied by the number of people you're asking will give you a lot of information about your change. So that's simple enough to do. Let's look at the second technique. It's called the Benefits Dependency Network. Now, this diagram comes from the Agile Change Management book, and it gives you a sense of, on the left there, we have an improvement. We have a reduction in the number of steps in a process. And what we've got on this chart is the answer to the so what question. So if I have a reduction in a number of steps in the process, so fewer people are needed to carry out the process. That means fewer people are needed to manage those resources. Taken together, they're in the middle, fewer people need to be trained. That means that training is going to be simpler and quicker, means training costs are reduced, which would lead to a reduction in overall costs. So really what this is a structured mind mapping technique. It just helps you tease out each of the little improvements, the little advantages that come with your change. I thought it would be helpful if I worked through one. So I've taken automate a process because I think that's something that a lot of us are often involved in. So what does automating the process do for us? What are the benefits? So we redesign the process as a linear process because you can't automate something that doesn't flow, so it's got to be linear. So that will remove loops in the process. So it streamlines the process. So fewer people are going to be required to operate the process. Less time to actually complete the process. That will decrease the costs. But also, if fewer people are required to operate the process, those staff can be reassigned to higher value tasks, which also leads to an overall decrease in the cost of the process. Take a second idea from the same change. Well, data is only going to be entered once if we automate the process. That means we can remove the repeated steps of data entry. That will get rid of a lot of rekeying mistakes. That will decrease the irritation and annoyance we have associated with the process for us and for our customers. That will improve our reputation for customer service, which ultimately will lead to more satisfied customers, leading to a revenue increase. There's no right or wrong answer with this. It's a structured mind mapping technique that just helps you tease out the benefits that you can think of. And it's also an incredibly collaborative technique because it's simple to use, very intuitive, so everybody can participate and share their ideas. And of course, in that way, you get the discussion going about what people think are the benefits of the change. At the same time, we shouldn't forget that not every aspect of the change is beneficial. Not every aspect is an improvement. There are negative consequences. People lose out. Maybe they've got a process that works really well for them locally, but now they're being asked to carry out things in a way that the whole organisation does, maybe using the same system that every part of the organisation uses. So they lose some of that local sort of specialisms that really help their customers. So we do need to understand what the disbenefits are, these negative consequences, how sizable they are, and who's going to be affected. Because we have to ask the question, of course, if the disbenefits outweigh the benefits, should we really be carrying out this change? Something else happens in that disbenefits show that we're really walking in the shoes of our users, those who are going to be affected by the change. So the disbenefits are sort of a tool for empathy. because we are recognizing that perhaps the change is not a positive experience for everyone. And we can understand that people are being disadvantaged, and therefore we can help them overcome the issues that are affecting them with this particular change. What we don't want to do is the disbenefits to become the be-all and end-all of the change. We want to focus on the benefits, but we need to understand that there are disbenefits and we'll need to work at overcoming them. So how do we minimize the disadvantages that some stakeholders might experience when others are getting a huge amount of benefit? Now, the idea of benefits and disbenefits is we need to understand overall motivation for making the change happen. Now, included in the Agile Change Management book is the motivation questionnaire, and I'm making this available as an extra download for you on this course, especially if you can't read it all on this screen. But the motivation questionnaire will be another way that you can easily start to get the conversation about benefits happening with all of your stakeholders on the community map, because there's 6 areas here that you can go and ask them about. And crucially, you might want to map the level of motivation that people have got, measure their support for the change. So a little spider diagram, for example. And on the right-hand side, I've included an example of one where there's actually poor support for the change. There's poor motivation. And in that case, we might have to investigate whether or not we've got the scope of the change right. If we included other things or excluded some parts of the change, would that improve the overall perception of benefits and therefore the overall motivation for the change? This is why mapping the overall level of support across your stakeholders, perhaps by stakeholder group, is important, because you might find that one particular group has a lot of benefits and are very motivated to make the change happen, and others are not. So benefits is not just something we help people identify, but we also use it to keep an eye on the level of support and therefore enthusiasm and participation that we're likely to have in our change. Because if our stakeholders don't participate in the change will never become a reality. One of the most effective and intuitive and easy to collaborate techniques is that benefits dependency network. So I want you to have a practice at creating one for yourselves. Just think of any piece of work that you're involved in, any kind of change, and think about just teasing out all of the so what, so what, so what answers. I've created a suggested answer based on the scenario that's available for this course, so that you can sort of see some of the ideas that I've had. And of course, you can rerun this session as often as you like to see me build up that benefits dependency network.